All right, everyone. Given that the siberX Smart outage did not impact your lunch, I'm very, very grateful and happy that you were able to enjoy your lunch at different sites across this venue. Welcome to the module on eradication. I teach security full-time in my day job, and one of the things I always say is eradication begins when discipline starts. And Alex and team, I can tell you the lack of discipline in all of our approaches does not give me a lot of confidence at this point, but hopefully you can walk me through how we're going to deal with situations as we see it right now. Before I begin, I want to thank all of you once again on behalf of the entire crew of advisors that are here, as well as the siberX team. Alex always tells me that folks in Vancouver are grounded by the land and lifted by the people. And I can tell you the discussions that I've had, not just with senior executives in security, but also with some of the students at Young Defenders. It is truly remarkable to see how much you are invested in supporting the wider cybersecurity community. With that said, I'll repeat 3 housekeeping items. The first is for all of my advisors. Number 1, when you are speaking, unmute and mute, follow the same process. The same goes to my amazing folks that are watching here in person. If you do have a question, please raise your hand and I will weave it into the conversation and you can unmute as you see advisors are. Alex, I'm going to ask for your existential powers. If there's anybody, I do not have the capacity to see behind me, but if anybody has their hand up behind me, if you can point it out for me, I would be extremely grateful.
I have a hand gesture for that.
You have a hand gesture for that. You came prepared. Well done. Second, for those that are watching online, from time to time, polls will be popping up. Please do participate. From time to time, we'll be sharing access to different labs through immersive labs. Please use them and participate. There are limited coupons only available. And lastly, as we come closer and closer towards the conclusion of the day, right at the end of the day, we will be taking a group photograph just behind me and invite all of you to participate in it. And also at approximately 2 p.m., if you are interested, there is a workshop being run by Lima Charlie on the 4th floor, if I'm not mistaken, or the cyberX volunteers will guide you if you would like to participate in that. The Lima Charlie team can also make that workshop available virtually if so there is interest in that. But I do encourage you, if you have the time, to go out and participate if you can. With that said, welcome to the module on eradication. Firstly, Alex, before we go to the media, I want to turn it over to you, because your last note to me says, CyberX Smart now believes the threat is contained. Explain yourself, young man.
After the containment phase, that's where most organizations have a quick breath to breathe and reevaluate. Now, are we fully contained? Well, we hope. But with most instances of incident response, it is a state that can be changed very quickly when you open up the kimono, look at the logs more, or notice something else dropped that you thought was in the clear. For this scenario, we do believe we've contained the threat. We do believe that the point of sales have been compromised and bricked. Our ERP system, database system, inventory systems are offline, also impacting the business's ability to operate both at the retail, online, and distribution wholesale side. So now our focus is going to be about removing those threats. And that is both a technical challenge. How do we take the threat out? Is it click on install on malware.exe? Is it taking backups and restoring them? But there's also this part of the business that isn't technical at all. It's the people, it's the stores, it's the inventory that's gone rotten, sitting on trucks. You know, a common problem, particularly with supply chain, is that when something halts, the warehouse can't receive anything, that stuff sits in trucks, and that means that food likely spoils. So those are things that the business will need to consider that's really outside of that sort of take the threat and stop it from bothering the company. So with that in mind, let's roll with Module 3, eradication.
Thank you very much, Alex. And I believe the CFO, upon hearing that food is being wasted, has sprung into action.
Clarifying question. You had said the point of sale systems have been bricked. That's like non-recoverable, no rollback possible. Just, is that what you meant?
We had a technician start looking at the system, and blank screens, we're not able to USB into them. They're not responding on network. We believe that we are being attacked by crippleware, just halting the business. We have not seen a ransomware demand. We've been checking all channels. The touchscreen on the point of sale system is just blank. It does power up, but it is not responding. So we're going to start looking at how to do restoration there. Now, the initial team on the East Coast, they did do a flash of the firmware and brought it back online. So we are hoping that that is going to be our path to success. We have done further containment activities, including disconnecting from the MSP. We have been working with the MSP. They're not very helpful. They're really not looking to take any blame on this because all their screens say everything's good. So we do feel like we're on a bit of an island.
All right, well, we're going to ask the media team to wait because people are jumping right into this. There's a question at the back. Please go ahead, sir.
Hi, I'm calling from corporate counsel, and we've just been informed that there's a class action lawsuit being put together. And I'd just like to know, Adam, what is being done to protect chain of custody on the evidence? We got to keep our eyes on this.
Alex, who let this guy in? Great question. Could you mute your mic, please? Excellent question. Appreciate it. And folks, feel free. If you want to take on a character and you want to do it, go for it. Alex is all yours, as well as everybody else.
There's
Alex,
a hot
back?
seat right here, if anyone wants it.
Well, Alex, I don't know if you want to answer that question, but Melina, I'm sorry. Your title says Legal and Compliance Officer. That's what you went to school for, so... or at least that's what you told us you went to school for. So it's over to you.
So really when it comes down to the compliance issue, really the forensics portion of it, the chain of custody, hopefully we've been tracking all of our logs in a container that's being protected. Hopefully we're not making any more POS updates to the system, and we've done any of the technical responses that we need to when it comes to that. Really, on a compliance aspect, we're going to be looking more towards the service level agreements right now and our obligations to some of these, the merchants, the vendors, our distributors, all of that are going to be curious about what is going to happen with the stock that is sitting on delivery that hasn't been unloaded at the docks, any of that. So that really is going to be where our point of interest is. Also, just to touch upon some of the investigational aspect that we were just advised of, when it comes to the data types, do we know what's actually, we had mentioned that the ERP is down. Do we have an idea of what that actually contained? And are we looking at employee data? Are we looking at client information? CRM was impacted as well. Really, we're going to have to start getting an idea of what was contained within the documentation that's been locked up and encrypted or wiped out as we're learning.
All right, Todd, go ahead.
I'm just curious if there's any indication of data exfiltration at this point?
All right, Alex, I'm going to come to you and Shrey, but I also want to mention that we have the superpowers of Trend Micro at the table. I got that right? Okay. Trend Micro is here at the table. Lucas, I know that you have a lot of questions for us. I'm going to ask you, thank you also, Trend Micro, for coming in so quickly. I'm going to ask you to hold for about a couple of minutes before we come to, holy crap, that's 10 questions. SOC team, there's a lot that's about to come your way, but I believe you wanted to respond to the Chief Operating Officer. So Shrey, have at it.
At the moment, there is no IOCs regarding data exfiltration. We are considering the fact that this is more of a crippleware or scattered spider, nothing more than that.
Yeah, we say nothing more than that, Todd, but what I can tell you is that our privacy officer who stepped out to go for an urgent meeting has also told us that there's been talk about loyalty points related issues, and I believe that the SOC team, you've initiated some dark web monitoring on the advice of CrowdStrike. So there's some stuff that's coming over there. You don't want to be going into that space alone, so we have the experts on our side that will be providing updates on that very shortly. Yes, finance, we did spend a lot of money on this process, I know.
Yeah, I'm looking at that number up there. I mean,
Oh, boy.
I have to stand up in front of our shareholders in short order and sign off on our legal statements and our financial statements. And I need to understand if our systems were compromised at the time we were compiling these financial reports or not. And do we have confidence in our financial system?
Please, go ahead.
So speaking of money, I know we had concerns about being a cash-only business or going to cash, but considering the number, do we want to revisit that decision, or perhaps even for some of these stores where parents can't buy formula, baby formula, maybe even doing manual Excel IOU notes, because our individuals have loyalty with us, we know who they are. In smaller communities, we want to believe and trust in them. So can we just revisit the decision of opening our stores, at least some of them?
Potentially, Vivek from the board, we fed you well at lunch. Have you come with some new ideas?
I think, we've got a mixture of stores. Some are corporate-owned, some are franchises, and there's different models. And I think we've always operated where the store owner would take the decision on how they're going to open with guidance from us. And right now, we're at a stage where we want to identify a number of stores to proceed so that we can prove the model and make sure it can be done safely. So I think some quick thinking needs to be done on what would be the candidate stores to give the green light to. Make sure there's a good mix in the type so that it's a representative sample, and then give them a go-ahead and make sure logs are being collected, make sure eyes are on them, and as they ramp up, we can use them as a view to how to enable other stores. But I think it's a good idea. It's prudent to do, but let's make sure we pick the right ones and make sure we respect, the store owner's role in that decisioning.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Vivek, for that. I will say that online, we have a really detailed comment from someone who's been tuned in for a while. And I'll just read the first line. It says, one of the guiding principles, and I paraphrase here, for eradication, I think we must empower and delegate authority to various units to be able to perform their critical functions. And there's some stuff for communication, so get ready for that. I will come to that very shortly, but at this point, I want to draw all of your attention to Roshan Khan from CyberX News, because ODTN News, rather, has something important to share with us. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, I'm Roshan Khan, and this is ODTN News. The CyberX outage has now grown into a nationwide crisis. What began as a retail disruption in the Maritimes is spreading across Canada, leaving communities struggling to access groceries and daily essentials. In a briefing this afternoon, a company spokesperson confirmed that CyberX is working with federal cybersecurity officials after identifying what they called a broader security incident. While details remain limited, the company suggested this issue may be tied to one of its external service providers. This marks the first time CyberX has linked the outage to a potential cyber threat. Several agencies have since issued statements urging vigilance, and there are early reports of ripple effects in other sectors, including companies supporting the upcoming FIFA World Cup events in Canada. Though those links have not been officially confirmed, meanwhile, pressure is mounting on the company's leadership. The CEO is expected to lead an earnings call next week, already facing scrutiny over CyberX's costly digital outsourcing strategy. For now, the company says containment efforts are ongoing, but no timeline has been given for full restoration. As the investigation broadens, concerns are growing not only for retailers, but for the resilience of Canada's digital infrastructure. For ODTN News, this is Roshan Khan. Please stay with us for more updates.
All right, I can see that the national economic impact is starting to tick away. Finance, I'm sorry to cause this to your health, but this is only going to go up and up. But at this point, Lucas, my friend from Trend Micro, you heard the news report. We've been saying stuff that containment efforts have been successful or are underway. We're not very clear. I know you have a lot of questions. Can I ask you to get us started off with some of your immediate questions specifically to the eradication phase? Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. And right now, I'm not so sure about the containment phase because for me, there's still a lot of unknowns, right? Because we just focus on, oh, we have POS and REP offline, but the forensic part investigation is not moving, right? We don't have indicators. We don't know accounts that were compromised. We don't know if they move to another part of the network. We don't know if data was exfiltrated, because if it happened, our communication plan needs to change, and we didn't investigate that. We don't have anyone look at the firewall logs, so I think we might need to change on how we are responding to that, because it's been like 30 hours since the breach, and the impact is just growing. Our CFO is crying over there. So I think our SOC team and IT team need some outsourced help, someone from the outside with expertise to help on the forensic analysis and to lead this investigation while our team can focus on the rebuilding and making sure that those POS are working or that we can get some backups and what else. But we can move to eradication. We don't have enough data to say, hey, yes, now we know everything the attacker did, because in my experience, they don't just want to lock the system and move on, right? They probably want something else. And what was that kind of something else that they wanted? They wanted some data, they want the loyalty numbers, or what kind of information that they want. And this is critical for us to understand and to move on.
All right, Alex, do you want to chime in at this point? And I believe, SOC, you have some updates for us, which after Alex, we'll take a few questions and then come back to you.
So we had an IR retainer, but we didn't renew it. So right now we are on our own with this. We can reach out to third parties. Part of the friction is that our IT team is unionized, and we do have challenges with bringing third parties into that environment. So that's something that we need to consider as well. That's going to be a challenge to get somebody hands-on keyboard. Potentially they can provide, be an advisor over the shoulder of our unionized team.
Go ahead. Yep.
But just at this point, right, the cost that it's impacting the company is like millions, right? The cost of hiring an IR company is not going to be that much. And then you get like fast response, you can get back to business fastly than trying to keep your own guys with a short staff. So in my opinion, that should be really something to start looking at, because the cost is just increasing. And then the price of having an IR company to help you out with guidance and all that will probably not be there higher as it is with the impact that's going on right now.
Fair enough. Finance, anything that you want to add based on this? You were the one who said no to renewal, so.
It wasn't me, it was the CEO. But look, we need to manage this more aggressively. This is now a material reportable event for our organization. And I will make available funds on an approval basis when the ROI is there to engage third parties and to get extra help to bring in to mitigate the situation. So don't let that be a barrier to us moving forwards. But we need to manage this as an incident with the approval involvement of third-party counsel, right, for arm's length management of this. So I'd like to see less democratic approach to this and more taking the lead and ensuring that we understand our path forwards. We do have an incident response plan. We should be following that in terms of communication and decision-making. And we need to be making sure we're tracking our spend, right? As we engage third parties, as we bring in consultants, as we have outage and downtime, all of that needs to be recorded and managed so we understand the materiality of the impact of the organization. This is something we will need to disclose as we head into our earnings call.
Fair enough. Less talking, more blasting. Heard you, CFO. Oh, my friend from Public Information. You're here. Let's go.
You know, in the meta, this is now a financial incident, which means ICFR impact, which means compensation control impact. So the CFO is now going to have to be involved in messaging, because every single thing we message is now going to have material impact on reporting, where there may be restatement. For example, did the FIFA contract provide assurances around trust and safety that were material to revenue recognition? Can we recognize the FIFA deal if we fail to produce the services that we sold? So the CFO is now this is a financial crisis now. So that means that on the PIO memos that we're shipping out, everything is going through legal, but now everything is going to run through you. Because we have to be very, very careful about how we frame progress and motion during the incident bracket. So that's the meta.
All right. I know, SOC team, you're asking me for a few more minutes before we can go to some of the updates that you have. I'm going to bring up an email that has come in, and it should come up very, very shortly. This is from another board member, and this is with regards to the loyalty points. And that wouldn't be the screen that I want to bring up, but if you could bring up mine, which has the loyalty program numbers, it'll come up very shortly. Give the team a moment. I'm very concerned about this email, and I think my PR friend, this speaks to something that that you had said. And what I'm more concerned about is that this particular email is starting to make a few more statements, which I have no clue how this information got to them. I am going to read this verbatim. Team, I am beyond frustrated. Okay. We have a serious credibility problem brewing inside this company. Well, I'm glad this person realized this, because we're at the end of day 2 right now. But great. The threat actors behind this incident are now claiming to have data on 20,000 loyalty program members, all of them. Yet last week, your internal team briefed this board saying the program had over 100,000 active members. So which is it? Because those numbers can't both be true. Either the hackers somehow missed 80% of the database, or we've been massively inflating internal metrics to shareholders and partners for months. CFO, I'm looking at you. This isn't just an optics issue. Bro, this guy wants to send you to jail. It's a material misstatement that will blow back during the earnings call. Analysts already have a 100,000 figure in their notes from prior investor decks. If this discrepancy comes to light mid-call, it won't just be embarrassing. It could expose us to regulatory scrutiny. We need a full reconciliation of the loyalty database. I don't even know if we can access it. Actual active records, verified counts, and confirmation from IT today. And I want to know exactly who signed off on that number. We can survive a breach. We can't survive being caught lying about one. Ooh. Fancy poetic line there from Nathan. Nathan's a good friend of yours, Vivek. Did you have anything to do with this email coming out?
I wish. Just an editorial note. Usually the threat actors don't dedupe the databases they steal, and usually the numbers are inflated from reality. But anyway, in this story, the numbers are, what's appearing here. I think it's going to be subject to the investigation. Did they get the whole database? Are they making it up? Is this even the database? We don't even know yet, right? We don't even have information about that. So I think all systems ahead, focus on restoration.
Okay. Captain Sok, Shrey, I think you have a few things, but I will come to you very shortly. If you can also just take a look at the notes that are going back and forth. There's some active chatter about the dark web, so we'll come to that very shortly. I do have a question that has come in, and I'm going to target that directly right now. James, you've now magically changed roles overnight. And from day one, you came in as our security analyst or expert helping us. And now, yesterday morning, or this evening or this morning, we promoted you to the CTO. So welcome to this mess called siberX Smart. We hope all your HR documents are in place. I have a question for you. At this point, from a tech perspective, a lot of folks online are asking, tell us about backup systems. Is there no way we have product are you saying are all the stores shut? And if Vivek's suggesting we can open up certain shops, with what tech? What do we need to be thinking about from a backup perspective? Any thoughts before we then go to the SOC team?
Thanks. So in the short time that I've been in this role, I've realized we don't have good backups. So they weren't actively tested proactively before the incident, and so those aren't viable. We're also very short-staffed on our IT team, so the request to our CFO and the board recently, I understand that request for additional resources operationally was denied, so that's a big challenge for us in being able to come up with a plan to restore service. What I've been told by some of the security analysts is it's probably better to purchase brand new POS systems on the end devices than try and re-image them, because we just don't have confidence in what has happened to those devices. So I think that's going to look for some of that expedited approval if we can source something out there.
I will not make a decision on that until we have more information. I'm hearing that these are bricked, but I'm hearing that they've been re-imaged. So I feel like more due diligence is necessary. That's a huge cost and time delay in our recoverability. We should pursue that as an option, but that's not something I'm willing to sign off at this point.
Also, Todd, quick question for you. With this idea of implementing new POSs, do you think we'll be able to implement this in this lifetime, or does it take a long period of time to get this done?
I don't see that as a practical course. I think caution is required because we could risk reinfection, re-imaging the previous devices. But if we have an experience before where we were able to re-image them and we suspect it was the patch that crippled those devices, then there should be a through road there. I think it's much, much better and probably more expedient to pursue that route than it is to procure something new and try and implement it on the fly. I think that brings an incredible amount of risk in the current circumstance.
Okay, fair enough. SOC team, I think you have something to. Alex, do you want to go first, and then we'll go to Shrey and his screen. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I'm working with my counterpart at the MSP. While they're not taking any blame for our outage, they are providing some guidance on how to start a restoration process. So they do recommend that we spin up new servers for the ERP, the database, all the centralized systems. There's no inventory in Canada to get those POSs out to every store, so we are going to have to hope that we can wipe them and rebuild them clean, get those configs on, getting them up and running. So I definitely recommend that we either have a lab spun up to be testing this out, and or we start sampling stores and getting technicians out there. Looking at the architecture, it does seem like update server is on the managed service provider side. So we're just not going to let that connection come back up, and ideally we can go with a last known good state with those firmwares and configurations on those point of sales. So I'll continue working with the MSP to try to get some of that tested so that we can come back with a better eradication plan, corporate, enterprise-wide.
All right, I see our incident response lead. Oh, here we go.
So do we have backups or not?
Sort of.
So then,
and what I mean by that is the MSP says they have backups.
no, not the MSP, our ERP system.
Sort
our
of.
inventory. Because your suggested course of action is impossible absent the ability to restore that data.
We are going to start scouring people's laptops to see if they have a copy of the database.
This seems like a good moment to press refresh. Yeah. Well,
Also, are you trying to restore the host on the infected network or deploy a new one?
So, repeat the question?
Are you trying to restore those servers and endpoints in the compromised network, or do you plan to have like a green network from scratch?
We haven't seen any action since we've cut the hard line, the VPN from the MSP. And we do believe that our environment is is down, but not, we're not seeing any propagation or lateral movement. We continue to look because we do have the tools to do so, but it's the signal to noise ratio that we're struggling with right now. But given the pressure to get the business back online, I don't think we can afford to go with a greenfield solution here, so it'll be brownfield.
Michael, I see you had your hand up. You are the incident response team lead of this magnificent team ahead of you. Good luck.
So a couple of questions. First off, we're talking about eradication, and you're jumping ahead to recovery. Somebody once said to me that recovery is something that you do when response fails. So, given the fact that we're still dealing with this Charlie Fox incident, can we make sure before we jump to recovery that our adversary has not somehow gained persistence in our environment? I seem to recall one of the SOC folks telling me that these scattered spider folks had gotten into Azure and was federating IDP to our own directory. So that might be a problem.
Alex, can I just interrupt you for one moment? We've got a few questions online where they're asking, there are some acronyms used like IDP, etc. Can you just explain one or two of them, please, and just break down the point a little bit?
So IDP would be identity provider. That is Active Directory. That is whatever Microsoft calls it this year. Entra ID, I think. And actually, that is a really good point, Michael. We are going to need to reset a lot of accounts and MFA tokens. That is something that we're going to have to work with IT Ops on, because that is a tsunami of user problems when we do a mass reset like that. But to your point, if they were on our management systems, on our ERP, they likely have some sort of identity access. Given scattered spider, that it might be the threat actor, we do need to look at that. But as noted, we are suspicious that we didn't get attacked ourselves because we saw all the update traffic coming over the VPN from the managed service provider. So I'm suspicious that they're hit. They're not taking that suspicion seriously, and it isn't our. It's not my position to start telling them to start their incident response plan. We're just going to make sure that we don't reconnect to them.
Okay, Sony, you've been sitting relaxed. This is the time to look busy. You've been hearing all of this. Your thoughts, because...
yeah, I have lots.
Chime in.
So I'm still not clear on what we're trying to eradicate, right? So that's the big one to me. So how do you know? Like, I'm not clear yet. Do we have true indicators of compromise? Do we have true TTPs? I don't hear that. So for me, we should be moving back to identify. So like in the incident response cycle, there's incident or identification, containment, and there's a loop. I'd like to go back to that. Because
it's a whirlpool.
If I can just say, sorry?
It's a whirlpool.
Yeah, but you brought up a good point. And about a greenfield. So we're saying that, okay, you know what, it may be cost prohibitive. Can we not, and I'm just throwing this out there because I want to provide you assurances, right, that, I think we got this, at least from a containment, identification perspective. If we have a greenfield environment, we put that till on there, that point of sale, it's already severed from the MSP, right? Can we then put some monitoring solutions, monitoring tools to really look at it at the process level? To be able to identify, okay, this is what's happening. That then, we might be able to provide some assurance to you that we've identified the situation, or identified at least at the point of sale system. Yeah, not there yet on the ERP, but that's kind of what my thoughts are.
Yeah, so I guess CFO is telling you we're not stuck, we're just in a deep analysis phase.
Well, but now that we have a lack of confidence in the underlying back-end system, we cannot turn these things back on even if the point of sales are reimaged and are functioning. We need to have some level of understanding of when we were compromised and when we need to roll back past. What do we do with the delta of transactions and inventory that have occurred since that time? How do we certify externally the environment is now sound, and then turn systems on? So this is a much broader issue than just point of sale.
All right, Todd, and then back to Sony, and then we'll go to legal as well.
I would maybe build on both of those points. I'm understanding there is basically nothing to connect the point of sale systems to anyway. We're going to scrounge around for some remnants of a database that could or could not be compromised. The alternative is to set up a new greenfield environment for what? Right, to start transacting on a brand new database. I'm lacking clarity on like what we're actually trying to pursue without sort of the central data point of our systems. Even if we can transact on it, what are we doing with it?
Sony.
So this just comes from my experience in retail. There's different types of point of sale systems, and some use store and forward. So at least then, because we're trying to find the balance of, okay, we've got to figure out what's in our network. The other side is the board is saying we've got to get our business going, business up and running. So some point of sale systems, and I've seen this in the past when there's network outages, not cyber incidents, where, okay, you can still, the customer can still shop up to a certain amount, right? And they can do store and forward. The record will be in the point of sale system. The inventory environment is still bad, but we can still start, from an optics perspective, start selling to our customers at a certain threshold, $100, $200. So that's my experience with point of sale systems. That, yeah, you're right. On the ERP side, we do not have any confidence in that environment. But can we still sell some products to our customers?
Okay. Legal and compliance, I believe you had something to share.
So I just want to bring our attention back to, and I know restoration is a really important part of obviously our business operations, but the investigation we've made, on the news it's been mentioned that the vendor is being blamed for essentially this outage. How's our investigation going? Because at this point, I'm looking at probably some lawsuits coming to us if we don't have the evidence to prove that it's not us. We're making some claims out there. Who's actually managing the PR here in the discussion to media? So we've got board members that are asking us about loyalty points. There is a significant risk when it comes to privacy on that. It's not only showing the type of purchases that our customers and clients are purchasing. There could be some sensitive information there. There's also possibility of addresses and credit card information that we have to be cognizant of. So we've got a couple of different areas here where we need a little bit more information because we're going to have lawsuits hitting. And also, and on the other side, it's the regulatory that we need to start making. As we've said, it's been identified as a material outage. We need to start looking at the regulatory obligations and notifications that we need to start working on.
All right, so communications, we do need to fork and start looking at how that public comment got out to the news that we're blaming our MSP, because you're totally right, there's a liability concern there. Companies obviously running around with their hair on fire, but I think we should have known better. I don't know who said that. So that's, that's going to get us in trouble. Yeah. So some good news. So we are building up the ERP system. Luckily, they're using some infrastructure as code, so we're spinning up that infrastructure. From the database perspective, the backups are incomplete. But a silver lining, Bob from accounting had retired a couple weeks ago, and we didn't wipe his laptop. And there is actually a copy of that database for our inventory. So we're going to start pushing those two together to bring that centralized system up. From a retail side, that's
the
our priority.
confidence with which he said that, I got you. Well done.
Pulling horseshoes. Now, from the retail side, let's look at both sides here. That, like, can we work in a manual state so that we can support our customers? Do we have anything to sell? Because we do have problems where there might be food spoilage, food didn't arrive because of the distribution problem, et cetera. But also, like, are our staff even trained to do this? And if so, if we're going to do manual, if we're going to trust a point of sale that they're not trained on, how do they know how to use it? So I think we need to set up some quick training and communiques to the general managers of each store. And next is, I think we need to engage with a technician partner that can deploy people quickly to be our hands and feet, sticking the USBs where they need to go, and bringing those POS systems back online. Again, in an isolated environment, we don't have 100% confidence our network is fully clean, but we also can't afford to do that because done is better than perfect.
All right, CISO, please chime in.
So as ex-CISO, I really appreciate you having me back at these meetings.
You took some creative liberty there, but sure, you can fire yourself at ODTN.
Yeah, well, I took my vacation during containment, and I realized that was probably a poor time now, because a lot happened. I would say that a whole lot of things are happening simultaneously here, that we're trying to work our way through important things, and it goes everything from legal and class action lawsuits to long-term blowback versus short-term. I think that with the SMEs in place now, we obviously have to get to some root causes, but the reality is getting systems up and running. Getting the environment working correctly would probably be one of those drivers. So I have a feeling one of those things would be breaking this down into tiers of operations where there's priority work versus secondary work versus long-term work. And with the help of the board and others, we'll probably get some of the direction we need.
Okay.
The reality is, with what we've seen here, I would be very reticent to say any of this is recovered and we're good to go, for sure. Eradication is an important word, but I don't feel like, we're even at the stage we all agree that everything's fully understood in terms of what all the impacts were.
Fair enough. Captain Shrey, I believe you have some updates for us. Would you like to bring it up on your screen?
Absolutely, Ali. And this is going to change the tone of this entire investigation.
All right.
I have my magic 8-ball ready.
All right. One of the important roles which SOC plays is to figure out that what is happening, definitely, and alongside, why is this happening? Motive is equally important. And at this SOC, we focus upon that too. So while Alex works with MSPs and while the binaries are being investigated, our threat intel division was running passive monitoring scans across several dark web channels. What they found, the first outage occurred and conversations began to surface on dark web from accounts known to engage in coordinated stock manipulation. Several handles were discussing what they call as inside disruption at a major Canadian retailer, specifically naming ERP systems going dark within 48 hours. One message literally reads, "Perfect short setup, window closes soon." Now, when we look at market data, during that same time frame, the analysts have confirmed that the short interest in the CyberX Smart stock spiked about 340%. Speaks a lot to me about the motive over here, as in why is this happening, why we have never received anything of ransom notes or anything like that. Money is being made elsewhere at the end of the day. This is no longer just an IT incident, it's an economic operation over here. People were wagering that our stock prices would fall. That's the motive that people and my team has been confirming about.
Alex, tell us more of this mysterious finding.
Yeah, that is spicy. So, our threat intel is suggesting that the organization is targeted by, maybe an economic threat actor that is not going after the usual ransomware, but rather already understanding that there's been some down pressure on our stock price, and then causing a disruption like this is going to be bad. So I'm not really sure how to deal with that from a cybersecurity perspective. Over to you, Sabino.
Well, that's actually the question. The question is stock manipulation part of the security threat model? And I bet you it isn't, because no CISO has defend the ERP from stock manipulation as part of their threat model. No one runs DR against that. So who owns the risk of the ERP being attacked and the materiality of the outcome? And it's not the CISO. It may not even be the CIO. So
don't look at me, it's not the moderator of ODTN either.
Look over here. So we have two possible scenarios.
Right.
Either we have an insider threat issue or we have an external market manipulation. on the cusp of our earnings disclosure, we are in blackout, right? So we have controls in place to be able to report and partner with the SEC and OSC on our behaviors internally. This is another reportable event. We need to raise this with the regulators in combination with legal and compliance, right, to make sure we're on the same page and support their investigations. But that's our role in this. It's a completely independent factor. It is motivation, but I suggest we take the approach that it's not necessarily insider. We have already controls in place to mitigate and monitor stock actions of our employees. This should be viewed potentially as an external motivator.
Okay, I see a few hands up. Lucas, from your perspective, is something new?
Actually, that might be misleading the investigation as well, because the SOC was pretty confident that they said it was someone from externally, right? They said that they were confident that we were scattered spider and all of that. So as the CFO just said, we should focus on external threat actor and not someone from the inside. And then might be also the threat actor trying to mislead the investigation and try to have the team shifting the focus to try to find something internal when there's nothing internal to look at. So, and also something that should be looking at was the 20K accounts that were compromised, not compromised, but that were leaked. We should get more information on that. What kind of information was there, where this information was stored at, which server, how they could get access to that data, and all of that, because that's also important.
Appreciate it. Todd, go ahead. We'll come back to you.
Just as a slight step out, I love this as a very interesting motive. And I would say like there's precedent for this as well. I don't think that we necessarily can determine an insider threat. If we can, I think it's pertinent, necessary to determine that. But because we suspect this came from upstream at the MSP, MSPs become a hot target because they have access to hundreds of other companies simultaneously. So I think what's likely is that this became a persistence opportunity where this was resident inside the MSP, they recognized the opportunity available and created the sort of the market manipulation as their vector for profit. As I said, I think it's a very interesting motive because this is far different and probably easier to do than it is to ransom someone, because all of this happens independent of action or decisions that company can take against that outcome. The market will do what it does, and if you can create an event where this type of information creates a precipitous slide for an organization, you're going to profit anyway, regardless of what action they take. So I think this is a very, very interesting angle.
I did not see this angle coming, and all I can say is on the count of three, let's all scream, because we did not see this curveball being thrown at us. I believe the board wants to know a little bit more from you in terms of what you've been getting from the threat intelligence. Shrey, if you want to take it over again.
Absolutely. And one thing over here, Matthew, towards your point that this can be or could be potentially internal or external, what the IOCs indicate here is a mix of both. There is insider information which is being exfiltrated out. That's what we saw within the emails going out, because the amount of logs I had, the amount of trials that people made towards manipulating this firmware, it was very smooth. In my personal opinion, if I want to do that on my computer, I will be able to do it. Somebody else probably not, but there's a different history of that one. That tells me there is something insider going on. However, the dark web chatter that I'm looking at right now is fully external. That means there are external entities playing around, sharing this information and hitting on the reputation of the company, which, as Rob pointed out very well, that, they're going to make money regardless of what is happening with the company or not. They're going to short stock at the end of the day. And to Sabino's point as well, that this is going to be not just going to have large implications, but massive ones. We can definitely, do hands up that, hey, this is not my mess, this is your mess, you fix it out. But the reality is the systems are down. The POS systems are still being properly, mitigated or contained or controlled in a particular way. We need to make sure that people are getting food back on their table at the end, and still the stock maintains its value. That's, I think, should be the focus right now.
Yeah, of course.
I just want to replay what I've heard you say. So you're saying that you think there are indicators of an internal compromise or an internal bad actor, and an external bad actor, and it's not clear whether they are coordinating or not. So to the points earlier about have we established containment, if we don't know the internal bad actor, then we haven't contained that threat. And I'd be curious to understand the perspectives around the table of how we can take action to mitigate that as we sort of look to restore services, and what kind of oversight or forensics can be put in place to identify that bad actor.
Alex, I think you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, so, and to address, this is interesting, this is scary, and we probably do need to assign some resources, but we also lack the unlimited resources that we did ask for budgets, and we have to, prioritize here. I do think that there probably needs to be some discussion on escalation to notify the board of these revelations of the concern of the members directory having a huge discrepancy between what we've publicly said of membership we have, which is directly related to some increases in our stock price in the past. We also need to, so we have to cover that. The shorting that we're seeing, that is speculative, and it is also outside of our jurisdiction. That's something the SEC and the Canadian equivalent would be likely chasing after post-event. So it's something that we should recognize. But, running around saying, I think there's insiders or not, until we have the smoking gun, we really do need to prioritize on bringing the business back online, because that's what the CEO is going to expect when they come back from holidays, that the business is up and running. Note that we do tend to want to find more evidence to confirm our suspicions rather than going with what the data is. And this is a very common cognitive bias that we deal with during incidents, is we put blinders on things that don't align to our narrative, and we may see things that are potentially a bit of a stretch, really lining up and helping our story. So we do need to take that into consideration, and as mentioned, we should probably discuss how we may need to adjust our communications to the investors next week. And given we are 30 million down right now, let's consider.
But Alex, I
adjusting.
have to chime in, because I'm in touch with the CEO, who's been texting me feverishly and sending me judgmental texts as well. I want to understand that from an eradication perspective, your solution for eradication seems like you left it in the wrong pants today, because you're not brought it to the table here. I need to know, and the CEO needs to know, what are the eradication steps? This whole revelation about manipulating of our stocks, and this is what the attackers are after, that's great. Now that we know it, it's shocked us all and definitely added some more spice to the table, as you said. But what are our eradication steps? Todd, if you can help me here, because you had your hand up, please, the floor is all yours.
No, I was going to ask the exact same thing, out of character, but I am curious, not to get too deep into the technical weeds here, but I would love someone to describe what are the eradication steps that are typical in this type of scenario at a high level, right? Just explain to me as a COO that how are we sure that this is ever out and that there's not a persistence left. And I understand the principle of there is that the whirlpool that we kind of get sucked back into containment and eradication as we determine, okay, this is gone, wait, hang on, nope, something here, okay, this is gone. But I am curious exactly that. What are those steps that determine, okay, we're clear?
Right, I saw Alex and then Rob. We have about 12 minutes left. Vivek, I saw Vivek and then Rob. Vivek, over to you.
Yeah, so a little bit out of character, but the board has been consulting experts on the side, so I'll use that.
Did you get approval from finance to spend that money?
We don't.
Finance.
The board doesn't need approval.
Whoa! Oh!
And
it's more like Vivek doesn't need approval.
And
Go
neither
on.
should the incident responders that you want to bring on board, by the way. That should not be held up. But anyways, I didn't think you were. The eradication and restoration has to be the priority. There are definitely red herrings here. Good to know motive colors it, but it shouldn't delay. It shouldn't impact the restoration. So to bring this back up, there has to be a concept of a green zone. And there's still a lot of questions about what's clean, what's not. And so there's generally going to be a bunch of parallel activities going on with a completely offline scenario, a partially offline scenario, and then, we've got this suspected database that's coming off Bill's laptop scenario. So these are things that should be spinning up in parallel. in multiple locations so that that data can be fed forward. So it is theoretically possible. Obviously, we don't know the specific software in the stack, but to bring up a green zone store in offline mode and restore ability to purchase. Now, you don't have reconciliation with the ERP and the inventory system, but now people are getting food. And there should be actually another team, aside from the comm stuff going on with law enforcement and with public relations and press, there should be another team that already has a list of prioritized stores. And I talked about this earlier. We need to know which are the representative stores to go after, but also which stores are in communities where there may only be one store. Like if we're in a place and there's 5 different stores and 4 of the 5 stores are up and working, we probably don't need to rush there. Yeah, it's going to be a bummer for the people that have to go home, but at least the community is not suffering. So I think if we can show a bit of thoughtfulness in how we direct our energy to bring up stores, those will feed forward into any other litigation and challenges that we get down the road. But we really need to have those teams in place. So the incident commander should be having this in their playbook. They should be coordinating these things, and these are the updates that we should be sending up. I think at this point, too, the knowledge that this is a cyber breach, right? We haven't really dealt with that in terms of, but I think, getting legal involved in terms of crafting the message that, yes, we've confirmed it is a cyber breach. We have not confirmed any data exfiltration, if that's still true, and that we're working with independent third parties and law enforcement to restore systems, et cetera. And we're prioritizing these on a community by community basis. So I think it's theoretically possible to bring it up, but building this green zone and then working backwards to a green ERP and meeting in the middle is probably the way to go. And then there's going to be a bit of a mess to clean up and reconcile the databases, but it should be possible.
Rob, go ahead. And Anton.
Yeah, so I agree completely with Vivek. The reality is we're all focused on the cyber element, but this has quickly become a business issue that would kick off BCP and DR 1,000 times over. And so the cyber element, to answer a portion of your questions, Vivek's going in the right direction, and that one of the early things you do is isolate all of your problems. Maybe it's the whole thing. Imagine all of it's gone, and we almost have to start from scratch. And so that's almost a BCP DR conversation, and an expensive one at that. But all those plans are in place, which is to say the cyber incident response plan that we're focusing on a little bit really goes off and leads into what's often a whole crisis communications process and BCP and DR, meaning you would continue to pursue all of the cyber conversation we're a little bit focused on, but other SMEs, and they're very often external for a lot of good reasons. You don't want to be handling all of this yourself. You want everyone from law enforcement to SMEs in all sorts of areas helping you restore the business now. But you could and very likely will spend months and months ever getting to the point where you even think you've figured out what exactly happened, if you ever find out, and that it's been eradicated. Meanwhile, the business is going to wait months and months to get going again and to deal with all the lawsuits that eventually Melina and others are going to have to put up with. Those are all things, even the stock manipulation. None of that really is the thing you want to do as part of BCP and DR plans. You've got a business to get going again. So really the 2 steps are isolate and cleave off everything bad, build up whatever it takes to get things going again are kind of the 2 big rock items for sure.
Okay, very quickly, Anton, I know you have a point to make. Go ahead.
Yeah, in our world of automated infrastructure, it's not that hard anymore. If you have a template for one good store that you can quickly spin up a new network technology. And back in character, we obviously worked on a nice zero trust architecture with microsegmentation. We can now bring that back up because we piloted it in one store. So let's go about and do that, and we can roll it out to all stores quickly because it's just scripts that we run. Okay. And in the spirit of good news, I want to share that I found the ticket where someone requested a pre-production database to play with data. And I told them just a subset of our data, please, and anonymize it. So I think it makes sense that someone has some data in a very unprotected environment. Maybe that's our 20,000 records there.
God bless these AI folks and all of their requests for data. Alex, I'm going to come to you because the CEO is still asking, so what are our eradication steps? But before, we have about 6 minutes to go. My screen will pop up round about now. I think, Shrey, with all of the voodoo that you were telling us about the stock markets, we've started to see that there is some chatter about this. And online we're seeing, for example, this Reddit post, is it? Yep. Or tweet, whatever it may be, I don't know. Selling most of my CyberX Smart stock. You should too. So much bullshit going down. Interesting. And then, my friends in communications. Let's take a look at this. We have our premier from BC who says, British Columbians deserve answers. The ongoing CyberX Smart disruption has impacted families, communities, and essential services across our province. My office has spoken with federal cybersecurity officials. We expect full transparency and accountability from CyberX Smart leadership. This is not just a business issue, it's about public trust. And then Anonymous comes on, finally, I had my popcorn ready. Definitely didn't get it from CyberX Smart though. Hashtag clowns. So before I go to Alex, so what are our eradication steps specifically, and has all of this been applied? Captain Communications, you've been feverishly typing away a whole essay on things that you want to send out.
Well,
what next?
For the record, in my notes, the CEO is Bobo the Clown.
Well, that's a good starting point.
So clowns kind of works out well. I've been feverishly working to contain finance risk over on the CFO side by making sure that we have our financial reporting policy in order and in the hands of the people who have to execute, that we have an MD&A insert for ICFR reporting for ICFR 11, 13, 17, and 23. And I've written our very first public press release, which says that we acknowledge that something happened. Okay. And we are working feverishly with the authorities to bring the business back up and running. That's currently sitting on legal's desk for approval. And once they sign off, out it goes. We're also preparing a statement on the loyalty account discrepancy because that has huge finance impact. I've taken the plausible deniability strategy and I've introduced a lot of mud to the conversation. It could be inactive versus active accounts. It could be data hygiene issues. Did you know that marketing, sales, and loyalty use different words like account or member or record to mean the same thing? Maybe we have to go through a consolidation process. Maybe there needs to be an accounting, and now down the road. Gone. Now, we have 5 days now to get the loyalty conversation with our arms wrapped around it, which is the purpose, by the way, of PIO, is to create a homeostasis of room, right? Outward pressure from the collapsing pressure on you so that you have narrative space in which you can perform recovery, perform forensics.
Yeah, I would caution you against adding mud to something that has implications to our financial status.
Well,
we need to
Finance
state.
has walked in and reset the drama meter.
I mean, we just don't know. We don't know. So rather than say we do.
I'm going to pull rank and say absolutely not. Okay,
Right.
We need to state what we know to be true and nothing beyond that.
Okay.
No speculation and no muddying the water.
Well, no, this is going to you. This is not an external memo.
But the external memo.
No, it says nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing. This is for you. This is for us to know that we have discrepancies because our practices have resulted in unhygienic data. And if we reported 100,000, that was true at the time, but after we went back and did the audit, we found that the discrepancies could be the result of, and then these other processes. And then that gives you the space for Alex to finish the recovery, and then we can worry about how we tell accounting stories on the other side.
Well, we might be in containment phase for PR.
Yeah, maybe for PR. Finance is not comfortable. PR keeps saying, I'm setting you up for the recovery phase. But honestly, Alex, in 2 minutes, from an eradication standpoint.
So we're wrapping up the eradication phase. And what does that really mean? Well, it's about getting the threat out and trying to set the system back up for business resumption. And set us up for the recovery phase. So a few things from a technical perspective. We're rebuilding the ERP and all the supporting components in a green VLAN. We are also working with various regional technicians to get the POSs up and running, recognizing that actually could be days to go to every store because we are national and we need hands and feet to do that we're also looking at doing more manual processing to do so. hands-on with staffing. Really stinks that we laid off so many staff because of the whole automation thing, but that's a problem for the recovery phase. We will continue to do some testing and monitoring because, you know, we are not creating a greenfield environment to build in. We're working in a brownfield with some greenish VLANs and whatnot. So we do need to step up monitoring. That actually might mean putting additional sensors at places we don't have and keeping eyes on glass. So working with Michael's team to keep doing the threat hunting and whatnot. Now, one thing I wanted to say is, like, there's a lot of side quests going on. Some are quite relevant to what we need to be doing right now, but the others are distractions. And that's built in to these scenarios because it is tough to, like, first of all, incidents are not just one thing. They're not linear. It is a whirlpool. And there's all these competing priorities. You know, we have PR and we have finance that are butting heads in this because they have different incentives and different needs, and they're representing those roles well. Thank you, guys. That's awesome. But this is where we have to recognize that the incident that we have, which is a business down, is the most critical, and then we have all these side quests that need to be addressed, and in real time too, particularly the discrepancy of anything we reported to the markets. But we also have to recognize that those things will probably cascade well past business recovery into the days, weeks, months, and we see that with lots of incidents. Marks and Spencer's is a prime example. Like, they had months and months before they could even take online applications for jobs. So that's a good example. And again, the privacy piece, like, that is now arguably a second incident that a team specializing in privacy would now be focusing on, and probably in a separate room, so that we can still prioritize bringing that business up. And it doesn't always work that way. You know, sometimes we bring a business up and they still got domain admin and they take us right back down. And that's an unfortunate challenge of done better than perfect. But at the end of the day, no C-suite is going to accept a bunch of techies saying we need more time.
And on that extremely well said and philosophical note, I will invite all of you in about a minute to enjoy a 20-minute break before we go into Module 4. But before we go into Module 4, I first want to thank Trend Micro for coming to the table and providing your perspective and bringing your questions. I want to thank all of the advisors for playing such a critical and seminal role, both comedic but also very serious in terms of helping us understand. And I really, really have to attest to this, even if I say so myself, the curveball that was thrown in terms of what the attackers might actually be going after was very, very unique and well acknowledged, especially online. A lot of people suggesting buy the dip if you can while it's happening. So well done. We'll take a break for about 20 to 25 minutes. We'll be back at approximately 2:45, 2:50 with Module 4. I will say this, that Module 5, which will be much shorter, will be an interesting one where we'll change it up, where we'll take questions from all of you in real time, maybe even invite you to come up and engage with us if possible. But before you go on the break, the CEO has a message for you, because she's had a message and a rallying cry at all times. She says, to defeat the virus, we must defend the vision. Except nobody knows what the vision is at this point. So see you all in Module 4 in approximately 20 to 25 minutes. Thank you all very much.